and shine, campers. When you're working a 9-to-5 job, you've got to fit in your YouTube video recording where you can. So this morning it's just going to be me running on this treadmill. Now I don't have enough breath to run and talk at the same time, so I've invited Red into the commentary box to take care of that side of things. Are you there, Red?
Yep, I'm all set to start when you are. So welcome everybody to today's event. On the treadmill we have Mr. Tightwad, and we're starting him off with a nice easy warm-up of 2 minutes at speed 4.0. How are you feeling at the moment, Mr. Tightwad?
All good so far.
So Mr. Tightwad is 50 years old, 180 centimetres or 5 feet 11 inches tall, and at present he weighs in at a whopping 110 kilograms. That's about 242 pounds in the old money. Today's broadcast is coming to you from Mr. Tightwad's well-equipped gymnasium. As you can see, we have a treadmill, an overhead fan for cooling, and a wall clock. And Mr. Tightwad was also supposed to be wearing his full Tightwad Workshop uniform today.
I still don't think it's a good idea to stay fully in uniform for this, so I'm going to wear shorts and runners, not trousers and work boots.
Well, you know, that's your choice, but the marketing department says that maintaining the brand is important too.
We have a marketing department?
Now, he wasn't that fat when we started Tightwad Workshop in 2021, and his long-time viewers might have noticed his gradual belt loosening over the years, culminating in the switch to XXL trousers and suspenders in December 2022. His weight peaked at 115 kilograms, or 253 pounds, in June 2023, and we've been working him pretty hard with the street walking to try to bring that back down again. As of March 2024, he's back to 110 kilograms or 242 pounds. So anyway, street walking isn't really a suitable sport to record and edit for YouTube, and that's why we've installed this old treadmill instead.
Can you please stop calling it street walking?
Well, sure, if you like, but it's still just going out walking in the street though. So that's the first stage of the warm-up program just about finished. We'll switch up to a speed of 5.0 in 3, 2, 1, now. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, Mr. Tightwad is 50 years old. Now I know he looks a lot older, but that's just because he's had a hard life. So because of his advancing age and terrible starting physical condition, we can't push him too hard too fast. That's why the program that we're using for the treadmill starts with those 2 minutes of nice slow 4.0 walking, then increases that speed to 2 more minutes of 5.0 as a warm-up. Each of those columns on the display represents a 2-minute interval. So once he finishes this current 5.0 segment in another 1 minute 25 seconds, it'll step the speed up again to 6.0. We're keeping the incline level constant at 8 degrees, because if we set it any lower, the old treadmill starts to make some worrying rattling noises whenever his feet hit the deck. That's probably just because of his excess weight though. Okay, so his pulse has now risen to 114, which is right in the middle of his target heart rate zone of 85 to 150 BPM. His target heart rate is from 50 to 85% of his maximum heart rate, and for a man of his age, his maximum heart rate is about 170 BPM. This is a second-hand treadmill and it didn't come with a manual, so we're not sure if the distance and speed is measured in miles or kilometres. If you know how to check the measurement units on this treadmill model, then please leave us a comment in the video description. So as we can see, Mr. Tightwad's pulse rate has now risen to 122, and we've set up the treadmill program to keep him inside his target heart rate zone for the next 30 minutes. We've also programmed in these 3 hills to give a little extra spice to his workout. And now the second stage of his warm-up program is almost finished. And the next stage is to switch up to speed 6.0 in 3, 2, 1, now. He'll be maintaining this 6.0 speed for the next 3 segments, for a total of 6 minutes. Now the heart rate monitor on the treadmill doesn't work, so he's wearing this heart rate monitor watch. Show him the watch, Mr. Tightwad. This is an 8-year-old Fitbit that we bought off Facebook Marketplace. And it lets us monitor his heart rate in real time. It looks like he's starting to feel warm, so he's turned the fan on to low. His pulse was still rising steadily up to 127 now. Now, apart from the health benefits, one of the big reasons for Mr. Tightwad's weight loss work is that he has this whole cupboard full of size XXL trousers that he can't fit into anymore. Look at that. There's at least 15 pairs of trousers there. The ones on the bottom of the stack are what he was wearing for the first few months of Tightwad workshop videos, with brand new ones at the top of the stack. So according to the treadmill, Mr. Tightwad's now worked off 50 calories, which is about equivalent to one of these delicious choc chip cookies. So as you might imagine, a man calling himself Mr. Tightwad isn't likely to just throw those clothes away and buy more, so this financial aspect is obviously also a big motivating factor for him to keep exercising. And his pulse has now climbed to 136. He's keeping a nice steady cadence of about 2 paces per second there. This red clip on Mr. Tightwad's shirt is a safety lanyard. If he loses his footing or moves too far down the treadmill bed, it'll trip an emergency stop switch, so that he doesn't get thrown into the wardrobe behind him. We have a little view out the window there on our sneaker cam. Looks like we'll have a nice sunny day today. So there's the switch to the next segment of 6.0 speed. He'll be maintaining that for another 4 minutes. Then the program will switch up for the first hill. Mr. Tightwad's pulse is now running at 142, which is nicely inside his target heart rate zone. You can see that he's regulating his breathing to align with his footsteps, breathing in for 2 footfalls, then out for the next 2. It looks like he's switching between in and out breaths when his right foot touches the treadmill belt. So as I mentioned earlier, Mr. Tightwad's weight peaked at 115 kilograms about 9 months ago. As you can see from this BMI graph, that pushed him into the red zone of obesity. Since then, he's been able to drop 5 kilograms, or about 11 pounds, and his goal for the next 6 months is a nice steady reduction of another 5 kilograms. That still won't get him out of obese territory, but you have to climb the hill before you try to climb the mountain. We figured that a slow and steady weight reduction will be better for his health than a crash diet, and that he'll be more likely to keep the weight off long term as well. According to the BMI chart, he has to drop all the way back to 97 kilograms or 213 pounds just to get back into the overweight range. Then it's a further drop of 17 kilos or 37 pounds to return to the top of the healthy range. Now that BMI measurement is based on an average of all body types, from slender to pumped. And in reality, Mr. Tightwad's ideal weight is somewhere around 80 to 85 kilograms, or 175 to 185 pounds. So it's still a long-term goal, but it should be achievable within a year or 2. It looks like Mr. Tightwad's heart rate's now running at 145. That's near the upper edge of his target heart rate zone of 85 to 150 BPM, but he seems to be handling things pretty well. The 3 hills on the treadmill program are intended to push his heart rate above that, but the majority of his 30-minute workout should still be inside it. So we've just ticked over into Mr. Tightwad's last warm-up segment of 6.0 speed, and he's probably starting to prepare himself for the first of his 3 virtual hill climbs. These hill climbs are all programmed for a speed of 8.0. Now that doesn't sound like a big step up, but remember, his pulse is already at 145, and we're expecting that to rise to around 160 for these hill climbs. After all, we're trying to make him fit here, not kill him. You might have noticed that we've put the Tightwad work clock on the wall there behind Mr. Tightwad. It's there to provide proof that he really did do this whole workout in one unbroken session. Rolling straight out of bed at 6 AM and heading straight to the treadmill seems like a weird way to approach your exercise, but hey, whatever keeps him motivated. The picture on the wall there is from Mr. Tightwad's Round Australia motorcycle ride from 20 years ago. That's his motorcycle in front of the Devil's Marbles in the Northern Territory. As you can see, they're quite big. So Mr. Tightwad's pulse rate is now up to 147, which is still inside his target range. It looks like Mr. Tightwad's now worked off 100 calories, so we'll credit him with his second delicious choc chip cookie. So we're just about to start the first hill climb, and our man's turning the ceiling fan up to high because he knows what's coming. As I mentioned earlier, we've had Mr Tightwad training with these hills set for a speed of 8.0 and an incline of 8 degrees. He found that tough at the beginning, but now he handles it pretty comfortably. Now what Mr Tightwad doesn't know is that I've quietly bumped the speed for this first hill up from 8.0 to 8.5. So let's see how he handles that. The speed will switch up in 3, 2, 1, now. There we go, the treadmill's now running at 8.5. It's only a slight increase, so it might take him a while to spot it. So it looks like he's spotted the difference, but he doesn't yet have enough spare breath to complain about it. You can see on the sneaker cam that he's lengthened his stride so that he can keep his cadence at about the same as before. However, it has forced him out of his fast walk posture and into jogging. We're now about 30 seconds in and his pulse has already risen to 149. Actually 150, just as I was speaking there. So now it's risen again to 152 and we should expect to see a peak at around 160 within the next minute or so. He's starting to breathe much deeper now and he's still regulating his breathing in time with his footfalls. He's maintaining a nice steady cadence, about 2 paces per second. He now has 60 seconds to go on the first hill. He's going well. His pulse rate is now up to 156, but he looks comfortable with the 8.5 speed. He's starting to work up a sweat now. He's getting a bit red in the face. 45 seconds to go now, looking good. Pulse rate holding steady at 158. Just look at the focus and concentration there. He's not finding this easy. You can see how hard he's working. His pulse rate has just jumped to 159 with 25 seconds to go. Pulse holding steady at 159. Looks like he's feeling the burn now, but he's determined to see this one through. Now we're coming up on the first recovery period. That'll have him switching back down to a 6.0 fast walk for 2 minutes. In 3, 2, 1, now. I'm really impressed with how he's handled that. So now let's welcome Tux Tightwad to the commentary box to give his thoughts on today's event. And he's brought water. Thanks, mate.
Yeah, no worries. I've done a bit of commentary work before. I know what thirsty work it can be.
You're not wrong there, mate. In fact, I can't think of any job that's thirstier work than sports commentary.
I'm with you, but I reckon our man on the treadmill might disagree with that assessment, Fred. You know, I'll bet he's wishing he hadn't left his water bottle there on the bed now.
True, and we didn't show him how to pause and restart the treadmill, so he won't be able to get it for himself either.
Must be hard knowing that cool, delicious water's so yet close and yet so far. Still, he'll be able to drink as much of it as he likes once he finishes his workout. How much longer is that?
About 19 minutes.
Oh well. But he's now worked off 156 calories, so we can give him his third delicious choc chip cookie.
And while we've been talking, Mr Tightwad's pulse has dropped back to 150.
It looks like he's doing some controlled breathing exercises to help bring that down. We should start to see the results in a few seconds.
Yeah, he's not struggling there. His breathing and cadence are nice and steady.
A slight rise to 151, but the overall trend should be a steady drop until he hits the second hill.
25 seconds left in this recovery period and his pulse is steady at 151.
Yep, he's recovering quite well there, steady at 151.
He should be feeling pretty good about the second hill then.
Yeah, about that. Now what Mr Tightwad doesn't know is that I've quietly bumped the speed for this second hill up from 8.0 to 9.0. So let's see how he handles that.
That seems a bit ambitious, also not what we discussed earlier.
He'll be fine. He's a determined fella. Let's see how long it takes him to notice.
Looks like he's noticed right away there and he doesn't look happy about it either.
So since Mr Tightwad's starting this second hill with his pulse rate already at 150, we can expect his peak pulse rate to be a bit higher than for the first hill. What's your prediction, Red?
Well, first of all, I'll predict he's going to be angrier with you than he will be with me, but I think his pulse will probably peak somewhere around 165.
Yeah, that's about what I thought as well.
And it looks like it's already started to climb. He's up to 154 now.
He's keeping a steady cadence and just adjusting his sleeves there. Probably should have rolled them up an extra turn at the start.
He's doing well so far though. He's approaching the halfway point for this second hill.
Pulse rate rising to 157 with just over a minute to go.
And there's the halfway point with his pulse rising to 160.
He's controlling his breathing and cadence well. Pulse now up to 161.
Yep, cadence looks good. Pulse at 161. He's obviously finding this hill a bit harder than the first one though.
Pulse rate moving up again to 162, 41 seconds to go.
His breathing sounds a bit ragged this time, but it looks like he's going to push through and finish the hill.
Did you expect anything less? You know what a determined fella he is.
30 seconds to go, pulse rate rising slightly to 164.
Yeah, he'll have no trouble with this one. Maybe I should have given him a tougher challenge.
No, we're trying to make him fit, not kill him.
He's not a racehorse. He knows how to stop the belt if it gets too much for him. It's just pride pushing him on, or determination as you want us to call it.
Mr. Tightwad has just passed 200 calories, so we can now give him his fourth delicious choc chip cookie.
2 seconds to go and his pulse is running at 165.
And he's into his second recovery period, 2 minutes at speed 6.0.
You should start to see his pulse rate starting to drop in the next few seconds.
Yep, still steady at 165 for now.
Excuse me for just a minute.
No problem, Tux. Down the hall on the right. So we're 25 seconds into the recovery period and Mr. Tightwad's pulse has started dropping to 163. And in spite of what Tux just said, I think that the 9.0 speed is about his limit. So Mr. Tightwad has 90 seconds left for this recovery period and his pulse is now down to 162. If that follows the same trend as before, it'll probably bottom out at around 150 just before he starts the next hill. He seems to be getting his breathing back into a rhythm again now too, but that second hill was definitely a struggle for him. Just over 1 minute of recovery to go and his pulse has only dropped to 157. I don't think that he's looking forward to that third hill. And I have to say, I'm glad it's not me on that treadmill right now. So now I'm told that we're going to make a live cross to JT, who's currently at the gymnasium. Can you hear me, JT? Hello, Red. Yes, I'm standing outside Mr. Tightwad's gymnasium. So how's he looking? He looks old, Red. Old, fat and tired. Do you remember what we said earlier about softening the harsh truth a little bit? Yeah, I remember what you said. Now we're nearly at the end of Mr. Tightwad's rest interval, but what Mr. Tightwad doesn't know is that I've increased the speed of his treadmill from 8.0 to 9.9. And I've also increased the incline from 8 to 9. So let's see how he handles that. Are you sure about this, JT? We're trying to make him fit, not kill him. Oh, I'm sure he'll be fine. Probably. Back to you, Red. Well, that's a hard blow for Mr. Tightwad. And he definitely doesn't look happy about this development at all. But it looks like he's decided to dig deep and go for it. He's lengthened his stride again, but this time he's needed to speed up his cadence quite a bit as well. He's controlling his breathing well so far, but I really don't know how long he can hold on here. This treadmill setting's well above what he's trained for so far, and there's a chance it'll break him. But it's exactly this kind of challenge and drama that brings audiences back to Tightwad Workshop over and over. And let's welcome Tux Tightwad back to the commentary box.
Crikey, what happened there?
Oh, some bright idea of JT's. I don't think Mr. Tightwad's going to last much longer.
Don't underestimate the man, Red. He's very determined.
Determination or not, jumping from 8.0 to 9.9 and increasing the incline is a lot to ask.
And Mr. Tightwad's just run past 250 calories, so let's add a fifth delicious choc chip cookie to his plate.
So Mr. Tightwad's pulse rate has now risen to 161.
If he keeps going, I expect he'll go higher than his peak of 165 on the second hill.
Pulse at 165 now, and he's clearly feeling the strain.
And there he's bailing out of the high speed and resetting it to 6.0 for the fast walk.
I'm relieved that he did that. I was getting ready to call an ambulance for him.
I think you might be exaggerating a bit there.
Not a whole lot. Look, his pulse is still at 168. And his breathing sounds pretty ragged too.
He's getting it under control. Have a little faith in the man.
His pulse is still at its peak value of 168 and he's breathing hard.
He's controlling his breathing now, and there. His pulse has started dropping again. He's down to 167.
Well, he's past the final hill now and only has 10 minutes of fast walking to go. Pulse now at 166 and dropping. Let's cross back to JT at the gymnasium. Can you hear me, JT? Hello, Red. Yes, I'm standing outside Mr. Tightwad's gymnasium. Although, to be fair...
To be fair...
To be fair... To be fair... To be fair, calling it a gymnasium's a pretty grandiose word for a spare bedroom with a treadmill in it. How's he looking? He looks angry, Red. Angry and tired.
Not happy, janitor.
And it looks like Mr. Tightwad's now making pop culture references to Australian TV ads from 20 years ago.
If he thinks that's going to make him popular with the kids, he's going to be disappointed.
Well, it was a cultural phenomenon at the time. Back to you, Red. Seriously, Not Happy Jan was right up there with the biggest memes of the day.
Well, maybe in a world famous in Australia kind of way.
Okay, fine. His pulse is dropping again, back to 158. Now, as we mentioned earlier, this exercise program isn't all about fitness for Mr. Tightwad.
That's right, Red. Mr. Tightwad has this whole cupboard full of size XXL trousers that he can't fit into anymore. Look at that. There's at least 15 pairs of trousers there. The ones at the bottom of the stack are what he was wearing for the first few months of Tightwad workshop videos, with brand new ones at the top of the stack.
Well, if he keeps up the treadmill work and stops eating so many delicious choc chip cookies, he should be able to start wearing them again soon.
You can't expect a man named Tightwad to just go and buy all new trousers after all.
No, indeed. Pulse now 154 and falling.
Did you already talk about the BMI chart?
Well, yeah, but that was 15 minutes ago. They've probably forgotten by now.
So as Red mentioned earlier, Mr. Tightwad's weight peaked at 115 kilos about 9 months ago. But as you can see from this BMI graph, that pushed him into the red zone of obesity. Since then he's been able to drop 5 kilos or 11 pounds, and his goal for the next 6 months is a nice steady reduction of another 5 kilos. That still won't get him out of obese territory, but you have to climb the hill before you try to climb the mountain. We figure that a slow and steady weight reduction will be better for his health than a crash diet, and that he'll be more likely to keep the weight off long term as well. According to the BMI chart, he has to drop all the way back down to 97 kilos or 213 pounds to get back into the overweight range. Then it's a further drop of 17 kilos or 37 pounds to return to the top of the healthy range. So this is going to be a fairly long process.
And Mr. Tightwad has just run past 300 calories, so let's add a 6th delicious choc chip cookie to his plate.
Now that BMI measurement is based on an average of all body types from slender to pumped, and in reality Mr. Tightwad's ideal weight is somewhere around 80 to 85 kilos or 175 to 185 pounds. So it's still a long-term goal, but it should be achievable within a year or two.
It looks like Mr. Tightwad's heart rate is now running at 149, which is a nice steady reduction from his peak of 168 a few minutes ago.
He's certainly working up a sweat there. Looks like raindrops on the treadmill belt.
4.5 minutes of this fast 6.0 walk to go and his pulse is steady at 149.
Yeah, I don't expect it'll drop any further until he gets to his final cool-down interval at the end of the program here.
So if we take his heart rate graph so far and overlay it on the treadmill program, as you'd expect, those 3 peaks line up perfectly with the hills in the program.
Although the third hill is now missing from the treadmill's readout because he didn't finish the entire interval. This treadmill seems to be a bit of a harsh judge in that respect.
6 minutes of fast walk to go and his pulse has now gone back up to 151.
Yeah, he's breathing hard there, but the worst is definitely behind him.
Pulse up another point to 152 and his skin looks pretty red there now.
Yeah, that's a solid case of workout flush, all right.
It looks like his pulse is stabilising at 152 with about 7.5 minutes to go in the whole workout.
And if we look at our out the window view on Sneaker Cam, it's looking like a nice sunny day outside now.
It does look nice out there, doesn't it? Do you have any plans for the rest of the day?
Oh, just the usual, change of clothes, become a different person, that kind of thing.
A little over 7 minutes to go and his pulse is steady at 152. I think I'll do a little bit of work on that latest sewing machine.
That hobby's really taken hold of you, hasn't it? You should probably keep doing an occasional woodwork video to keep the subscribers happy though.
There's plenty of woodworking involved in the older ones. I think it'll work out okay.
I don't think we're ever going to become full-time professional YouTubers though.
Mr. Tightwad's pulse has just ticked up to 153. That's unexpected.
Just getting tired, you think?
No idea, I'm not a doctor. He should be okay though.
His pulse has just increased again to 154 and his breathing sounds a little harsh.
Yeah, we should keep a close eye on that. Just over 6.5 minutes to go.
He's got a look of intense concentration there. He really wants to finish this workout.
Yeah, of all the words I would use to describe this kind of exercise, fun is not one of them.
He's definitely not enjoying it. I'm just glad it's not me on the treadmill there.
You and me both. Pulse still steady at 154.
He's got some intense concentration there. He wants this to be over.
4 minutes to go until the cool down stage. Pulse rate now at 155.
So if we bring back the heart rate graph, you can see that this current upward rise is a lot slower than any of the previous ones. So with only 6 minutes to go, he should be fine.
Well, I sure hope so. He's been through a lot so far. Pulse rate now 156.
So are you using a background soundtrack for this video?
What? Why? This is a sports telecast. Why would we have background music?
Dude, this isn't the 1970s. You use a soundtrack to add dramatic tension at key moments.
What do you mean by key moments?
Like right now, where our protagonist's heart rate is rising and we want to make it seem like he might not achieve his goal.
Okay, sure. What did you have in mind?
I think this should do nicely.
You don't think that's a bit too dramatic?
Dude, we've just spent half an hour commentating on a guy walking on a treadmill. We need all the help we can get.
So Mr. Tightwad's signalling 5 minutes to go, and he's just run past 350 calories, so let's add a 7th delicious choc chip cookie to his plate.
His pulse rate is still steady at 156, but for how long?
So is that your idea of building the dramatic tension?
Look, we're on the downhill run. Let's just get through this.
Mr. Tightwad's pulse has jumped dramatically to 158. Where will it end?
See, this kind of thing is why no one likes working with you.
So with 2 minutes and 20 seconds to go until the cool-down stage, can Mr. Tightwad achieve his goal?
His pulse has dipped back to 157.
Could this be the end for Mr. Tightwad?
Okay, stop that.
2 minutes and 10 seconds to go until the cool-down phase, and Mr. Tightwad has given his all to this moment.
Mr. Tightwad's now signalling 4 minutes to go. Looks like he'd be happy to quit at any time now.
Somehow I think I know how he feels.
His pulse is steady at 157.
Just under 2 minutes to go until the cool-down phase, and his pulse has moved back up to 158.
We'll keep a close eye on that, but for now he seems to have stabilised at that level.
90 seconds to go until the cool-down phase, and Mr. Tightwad's probably starting to think about the rest of his day.
Another long day in the office?
Yeah, he's back to rattling a keyboard and writing code again.
Well, it pays the bills, I guess. Not nearly as interesting as an outdoors job, though.
Pulse steady at 158, and Mr. Tightwad's trying those breathing exercises again.
That did seem to regulate his pulse a little bit last time he tried it, so let's see what happens.
No change so far.
So Mr. Tightwad's signalling 3 minutes to go, and he seems a little confused about which fingers to hold up.
Could this confusion be caused by fatigue or something more sinister?
What are you doing?
I'm just following the lead from your background music. It feels like we're building up to something big now.
40 seconds until the cool down stage and his pulse is steady at 158.
Can his heart handle this level of stress?
Stay tuned to find out. I find your lack of professionalism disturbing.
Movie references.
Pulse still steady at 158.
No, his pulse just jumped to 159. Can he hold on for another 18 seconds?
He's come this far, he'll do it.
The tension is dramatic.
7 seconds to the cool down, pulse rising to 160.
Cool down in 3, 2, 1, now. So Mr. Tightwad's signalling 2 minutes to go, and I'm glad he chose to show us the two fingers that way around. That also seems like a strange place to stop the epic climactic background music.
Well, now that he's into the cool down phase, his pulse rate won't be rising any further. Where's the suspense now?
Fair enough, although he did just hit 160.
20 seconds into the cool down period and Mr. Tightwad's pulse has started dropping.
Back to 158 now, as you say?
It should fall pretty quickly now that he's in the cool down stage.
Yes, indeed. Pulse rate already down to 156.
Should we do the BMI bit again?
Well, it's been 10 minutes. We're probably safe to do it again.
So Mr. Tightwad's weight peaked at 115 kilos about 9 months ago. And as you can see from this BMI graph, that pushed him into the red zone of obesity. Since then, he's been able to drop 5 kilos or 11 pounds.
Breaking news here. Mr. Tightwad signalling 1 minute to go.
And his goal for the next 6 months is a nice steady reduction of another 5 kilos. That still won't get him out of obese territory, but you have to climb the hill before you try to climb the mountain. We figure that a slow and steady weight reduction will be better for his health than a crash diet, and that he'll be more likely to keep the weight off long term as well. According to the BMI chart, he has to drop all the way back down to 97 kilos or 213 pounds just to get into the overweight range. Then it's a further drop of 17 kilos or 37 pounds to return to the top of the healthy range.
In more breaking news, Mr. Tightwad has just passed 400 calories, so let's add an 8th delicious choc chip cookie to his plate.
Now that BMI measurement is based on an average of all body types from slender to pumped, and in reality Mr. Tightwad's ideal weight is somewhere around 80 to 85 kilos, and his ideal age is about 31.
Well, there you go. To be honest, I really didn't think he had it in him.
He's a determined fella, all right.
We should probably give him a little while to cool down before we cross over for the interview, right?
Nah, he's fine now. How you feeling there, Mr. Tightwad? Mr. Tightwad? How are you feeling?
Were you boys trying to kill me with that third hill? You got to remember that I'm the family breadwinner this year. So unless one of you wants to go out and get a job while I'm recovering in hospital, you got to be careful with me.
Me? Get a job? I didn't realise it at the time, but a little piece of my childhood had just slipped away, forever.
JT, stop that.
Sorry. He didn't say it, and neither did I, but at that moment Mr. Tightwad and I were closer than...
JT, stop that. You're going to get us demonetised.
Sorry.
Anywho, I've got to say, guys, if there was some way for me to get someone else to do my exercise for me, I'd be all over that.
Isn't that exactly what we're doing?
Shh.
Really? Well, based on that, all I've got to say is that it's not going to be me on the treadmill next time.
So who do you think he's going to put on the treadmill? Oh, I don't know. Maybe the guy who set him an impossible third hill to climb? What? Have you somehow forgotten this then?
But what Mr. Tightwad doesn't know is that I've increased the speed of his treadmill from 8.0 to 9.9, and I've also increased the incline from 8 to 9. So let's see how he handles that.
Dude, that wasn't me. In fact, it looks like one of you two in a pair of grey overalls.
Oh no, it looks like we've lost JT there. So who do you think should be next up on the treadmill? Should we stick with our current champion, Mr. Tightwad? Or would you prefer to see JT get his comeuppance? Or maybe you think that Red deserves a turn?
Well, I'll definitely be voting for you, Tux. You can find a link to the poll in the video description, so please have your say and make sure that the guilty party gets what's coming to him. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.
Tightwad Workshop is filmed in front of a live studio audience.